This week in IT, Microsoft quietly turns Copilot Studio into a fully fledged AI platform, bringing GPT-5, human-in-the-loop controls, and curated action groups. Meanwhile, Windows 11 could soon be getting an advanced paste function, converting anything you copy into the format that you need. And Windows 11 authentication is getting a WebView 2 upgrade. So stay tuned for all the latest news. Welcome to This Week in IT, the show where I talk about everything connected to Windows, Microsoft 365, and Azure. Today's show is sponsored by our friends at Caresoft. This month, Microsoft has rolled up a whole load of announcements connected to Copilot Studio for us to digest, so let's have a little bit of a look at what they're saying here. Now, the announcements are a little bit mixed up between Copilot Studio and Agent Builder. Now, Agent Builder is something you get inside Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, and it's kind of a lightweight system allowing end users to build agents without having to go into the full Copilot Studio experience. In Copilot Studio, you get more advanced features and allowing you to add governance controls, all that kind of thing, to distribute the agents and just a little bit of a more advanced experience. So exactly what have they been saying? Copilot Studio is now equipped with GPT-5 to customers in the US and Europe. That is something that came to Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat already a few weeks ago, and GPT 5.2 is in preview, I believe, now in Copilot Chat. So you've got that now in Copilot Studio, plus they've also made some changes to the authoring experience to upgrade that. So you've got things like drag and drop prompts, and the whole thing has just been streamlined to hopefully make the authoring experience of agents there a little bit more streamlined. Microsoft has also been talking up curated groups for SharePoint and Outlook. So essentially what these groups do is bring a set of actions together, grouped together to perform particular tasks across Outlook and SharePoint. Now, why is this important? Well, Microsoft is saying that this brings the most appropriate actions for any particular task, groups them together, and hopefully you'll actually get an expected outcome more reliably by using these curated groups. Now, if you remember, probably already a couple of months back, I did talk a little bit about my experience with creating an agent in Copilot Studio on this podcast. And I created an agent to process some of my incoming email, and I put it into action. And at first it seemed like it did not a bad job, but now having tested it for a couple of months, it's not as useful as I'd hoped it to be. So I'm going to go look and have a look at these curated action groups in Copilot Studio and see if I can rebuild it into something that's more reliable and consistent. The biggest problem I've had with any AI platform, whether it's Copilot or OpenAI, haven't used Claude or any others, is just consistency, getting it to do the same thing every time and be sure that you can actually trust the end result. So hopefully these curated action groups will help bring us a little bit closer to that goal. While we're talking about models, so that's GPT-5, 5.2, which is now in preview, Microsoft is also saying that you can pick from a list of third-party models in Copilot Studio if you don't want to use the OpenAI ones that are usually there by default. For organizations that are using Azure AI Studio, you can even go further and bring your own LLMs to the table. So if you don't want to use the options that are built into that solution, then you've got the option to bring something that you've created or some other third-party model that maybe you would like to use. Now, this is an interesting one, and Microsoft is calling this human-in-the-loop control. So essentially, when you create an agent, there now will be an option that forces the agent to stop and to require user input. Now, you can do this as it stands in OpenAI and Copilot, if you create an agent where everything happens within, that chat interface and in that canvas, you can ask the agent to say, well, don't go any further until the human provides some kind of input and makes, an option. But this is a little bit different, I guess, in that not all agents are performing things in that canvas. They're doing things in the background. And how do you enable that human in the loop process if the agent is doing a background task, for instance? So I guess that addresses this problem. I haven't tried this myself, but I'm interested to see how that works, how that brings the process to the user's attention through some kind of notification, I guess. But I'm looking forward to see how that works in practice. And of course, putting a human in the loop is going to allow organizations to have an experience with AI agents that is more trustworthy. If you can provide that human input at various points along the process, then you're much more likely to get a result that you can actually use in practice. I talked a little bit about agent builders. That's the lightweight agent building solution that's part of Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. Microsoft has announced that now for general availability is a one-click migration. So if you've built something lightweight in Agent Builder and you want to take that into Copilot Studio to do something more advanced with it or make that into something that can be used properly across your enterprise, that is now a one-click migration, apparently. So you don't have to worry that it's stuck in Agent Builder forever. You can get that out into Copilot Studio now without any issues. Another interesting thing that they announced was the employee self-service agent. Now, the idea of this is now generally available. The idea of this is that it will allow employees to use natural language to do things in their organization that they usually have to go through a specific IT help desk solution or some particular HR solution, maybe to, book holiday or to request an IT support ticket. This agent is going to allow organizations to plug those systems into this agent, and then users will be able to talk to it essentially and achieve those goals without leaving their chat interface. Microsoft is saying that there are connectors for this agent that are in preview for Workday, ServiceNow, and SAP SuccessFactors. I assume that this will also work with Viva, although they're not explicitly saying that in the blog post, but I'll really be interested to see how that works in practice. And of course, what we need is a much wider range of connectors that are going to work with this agent, because that's quite a limited range of systems as it stands, but it's a great starting point. Lots of interesting updates there for Copilot Studio and the Agent Builder. Let me know in the comments below what your experience with Copilot Studio is. Are any of your end users working with Agent Builder? I'd love to know what you think of these agent building technologies that Microsoft is bundling with their Copilot licenses. Before I go on to the next story, I've got a quick favor to ask you. 68% of the people who watched last week's video weren't subscribed to the channel. Now, as we go live today, we're on 13,875 subscribers. I'd love if we could push that up to 13,900 this week. So if you'd like to see these weekly news updates from Petri.com, please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the bell notification to make sure that you don't miss out on the latest uploads. This is an interesting story that was, I think, first announced over at Windows Central. Apparently, Microsoft is filing a patent for something that's currently built into Power Toys, something called Advanced AI Paste. Now, I do this a lot. I do a lot of converting things from one format to another format because, data is being transferred from one platform to another platform that doesn't understand that format for one reason or another. It might be from a Word document to Markdown, or from, WordPress Gutenberg page builder to Markdown, or whatever that is, yeah? And this AI paste, essentially, you copy something as you normally would, and if you want to use the advanced AI paste, so it's the Windows key, Shift and V, it brings up a little menu with a set of predefined actions, or you can tell it what it is you want it to do. I had a little bit of a play around with this in PowerToys. I've just used the predefined actions. I haven't tried to bake my own, so I don't know whether that really works. But certainly it did seem to copy something that I'd just taken off of a web page and convert it into Markdown and then pasted it into Notepad. And well, I guess, if it's reliable, if it really produces something that is at least a great starting point for that format conversion, then I guess this is something that could be really useful. Now, just because Microsoft has filed a patent, just because it's in PowerToys, doesn't mean that this is coming into Windows 11. But the fact they're making some strong moves to patent this technology is an indication that Microsoft could be looking to test this with Windows Insider preview builds, maybe in 2026. Even that's not a guarantee that it will definitely make it to the mainstream release of Windows 11, but I think this is really interesting. It's also interesting to note that you don't require, at least in the PowerToys tool, a Copilot Plus PC for this to work. I didn't test whether this conversion works, this kind of formatting conversion, if you like, works without an internet connection, but it happened pretty instantly, which kind of looked like this conversion was happening on my local device. So maybe there's a model there that's part of PowerToys that it's using, or part of Windows 11 that it's using, but it doesn't seem to require any special hardware. So it should be, if it ever gets into Windows 11, something that everybody will see, regardless of the hardware that you own. Microsoft has released a preview for Windows 11 that's going to update the login for Entra ID, so that's the old Azure AD, join devices so that they can log in. At the moment, apparently it uses the legacy web view, which I think was based on I can't remember what the name of the original Edge rendering engine is, but they're upgrading it to Web View 2, so that's a Chromium-based engine, just like its Edge browser now uses. And Microsoft is doing this for various reasons: to be more consistent, to allow a better login experience, to allow consistent integration for third-party identity platforms and all that kind of goodness. We don't know, of course, exactly at the moment when this is coming into Windows 11, but it's in preview, and Microsoft is saying that your organization needs to start preparing for this. So you might need to update any policies, proxy configurations, or even applications to make sure they work with this new technology. Microsoft is saying that this will also help them to maintain the code base for all of this stuff more easily. And if you install this preview update, admins can enable or disable this feature through toggling a simple registry key. You'll be able to find that in the show notes on petri.com. We'll leave a link there that takes you to all the information that you need to be able to enable this in your test devices if you want to see how this works in practice. But that's something definitely you need to have in your mind going forwards if your devices are Entra ID joined. If you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, because it helps to get the video seen by more people and to grow the channel. Before I go today, I'm going to leave you with another video on the screen now about a new location tracking features that Microsoft is planning for Microsoft Teams. So do check that out. I'd like to thank the sponsors of today's episode once again, Caresoft. But that's it from me for this week. That's it also from me for 2025. And I will see you in the first working week of January next year. So happy holidays to everyone and have a happy new year.